Twins can't bust out the brooms in Game 3 versus Pittsburgh after a go-ahead run in the 9th. Final score, 2-1. Full deep dive coming up next. Minnesota Twins postcast.
This is the Twins postcast. Your instant game reaction for the Minnesota Twins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's going on? Back in the lab, back at it. Another Minnesota Twins postcast right here. Locked On Sports, Minnesota Network, your team every day. Luke Inman at Luke_Spinman. Got my guy with me, CJ Baumgartner. Give him a follow on X at BombCJ30. Twins expert over at Zone Coverage MN. Just off the top here, CJ, I know you've had this game circled on the calendar for a while now. Barbie Day at Target Field. How was your experience as a whole, and was it everything you hoped for?
I think the graphics team for the Twins killed it when they put out the lineup card and it was all cool. Barbied out. It was it's insane. It's not for me at all, but you know what? I think a lot of people had fun with it, so it's pretty cool.
Pretty cool colors going on in the stands today. Quite the palette, I should say, of colors out in the out at Target Field. Lots to get into. Duran gave up the go-ahead run in the 9th. Biggest turning point, nerdy stat. Whose stock is up on the Twins right now, going into the second half of the season. But first, quick reminder: today's episode brought to us by Game Time. Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. All right, quick little recap if you missed it. Game 3 versus Pittsburgh. They're looking for the sweep, right? Simeon Woods Richardson on the mound. I think you're the one who told me they haven't had a sweep since May 26th, I believe, something like that. And Simeon Woods Richardson, he's been heating up a little bit. He did the job again today. 4 2/3, 6 hits, only 1 earned run. Kind of thanks to Louis Varland, who came in the 5th, kind of cleaned up a little mess he left behind there. Buxton doubled for an RBI. That tied it up. Back at 1 apiece, and that was your score all the way into the 9th. Duran loads the bases up. He gives up a run, and then bottom 9 had a chance. Correa leads things off with a single, but the Twins couldn't capitalize. It was Brooks Lee, Royce Lewis, Ty France, all had a chance. So they lose Game 3, 2-1. That's your final. 47-49 now going into the second half after the break. Just give us your top 2 or 3, kind of biggest takeaways, 8 topics. What stuck out the most?
Pretty much from today's game, it's basically that Keller obviously is a very good pitcher for Pittsburgh. The Twins were able to get some chances on him, but ultimately just left a ton of guys on base. And that's kind of the story of when this offense isn't rolling. You kind of see stuff like that. Not necessarily that they were striking out a ton. I thought that against Keller, they did a good job. I think they only had about 4 or 5 whiffs all game. Like, they did a pretty good job seeing his stuff, but ultimately they just couldn't get any hard contact. There was a lot of pop-ups, a lot of weak ground balls. It felt like outside of that Buxton double, there wasn't a ton of balls necessarily hit on the screws. And even when Keller comes out of the game, the Twins still weren't quite able, outside of Buxton's double, to find that one big hit. And obviously Duran, not the cleanest inning. Brooks Lee trying to field that ball and had it in the glove, but the ball's hit 107 miles an hour. It's just really hard to try and get that to come out of the glove in a quick situation. So overall, just basic takeaways were, if the offense comes through just one other time, you go into extras and you probably win it there. You do something, but ultimately this is kind of when we've seen the Twins lose. This is kind of how it happens, is a good performance from the pitching staff, and the offense just can't find a way to get runners home when they need to.
Good breakdown there. Obviously, no opportunity for MVP of the game. You kind of just touched on the biggest turning point as well. Let's skip ahead to our nerdy stat of the day. Any crazy stat or fun analytic Twins related, I guess, from today, the series, first half, whatever it may be.
Well, big missed opportunity for the Twins. We were talking about this before we started recording, Luke, and that's that the Pittsburgh Pirates yesterday with the loss ended up going to exactly 500 record all time in their franchise's history. Yeah. And they're like one of the founding members of Major League Baseball. If the Twins would have beat them today, the Pittsburgh Pirates would have been under 500, a losing record as a franchise for the first time since like 1903, over 100 years that they have had a winning record or 500 as a franchise. Twins, it's going to happen for the Pirates at some point this month, but the Twins could have been the one to do a little baseball history there.
Yeah, it would have been a cool stat just to have the Twins as the team that bumped them down below 500. But they live to see another day. Plenty more deep dive. Which player's stock is pointing up right now at the All-Star break? That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the MLB. Right now, FanDuel is giving you a chance at a huge return. $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. Why I love FanDuel. When you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can go check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Again, $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. Go check it all out over at FanDuel.com. Getting some MLB future action if you dare. Twins sitting at plus 650 right now to win the AL Central. It's all sitting up over at FanDuel.com. Again, check it all out over at FanDuel.com and get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the MLB.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Okay, so what are we going to be talking about right now? 4 games off, obviously. You know what? Let's start with the All-Star game itself. What you got a favorite All-Star game memory, home run derby, whatever it may be? When I was a kid, I'm going way back here, but McGuire, Sosa, Griffey, Frank Thomas, 98, 99, 2000, that kind of range. You got a favorite memory first and foremost, and then we'll kind of transition to what it's going to be like to watch Byron Buxton in that home run derby.
Yeah, I really remember the 2008 home run derby with all my heart, because that was the one where Josh Hamilton was breaking records and doing his thing. And Justin Morneau ended up winning the home run derby because they reset in the final round, and Morneau was able to kind of outlast him. And everybody talks about Josh Hamilton in that home run derby, but nobody ever acknowledges that Morneau won it. And I always feel like I need to bring that up. Be like, hey, by the way, Justin Morneau did win. He did actually win the derby.
Like the stat you pull out at the bar, right? Like at midnight, you're like, hey, Morneau actually won that, right?
He actually did win the home run derby. Yeah, Josh Hamilton set the record, but Morneau did win it. And Morneau the next day scored the go-ahead run in the 10th inning, the first ever All-Star game that went into extra innings. Morneau scored on a sacrifice fly to win it for the American League at the old Yankee Stadium in 2008. That's one of my favorite All-Star memories to look back on.
That's a great one. That's fantastic for sure. Kind of forgot about that one. Byron Buxton, well-deserved, obviously. You and I haven't talked on air yet. Hits for the cycle yesterday, 5 for 5. The guy's just en fuego right now. So well-deserved, and so many Twins fans specifically, maybe not nationally, but Twins fans specifically have been waiting for this type of run from Byron Buxton for a long time. How special is this just for him as a player after everything he's been through and struggled through with the injuries and whatnot? And then what do you kind of expect in? I mean, I haven't looked at Vegas odds or anything like that, but I imagine he's not one of the favorites, but still, nonetheless, going to be fun to watch him in action. All-Star game plus the derby itself.
Yeah, exactly. Him being in the home run derby is really going to be fun. I mean, I think he should be the starting center fielder, but whatever. That's its own different gripe. But for Byron Buxton this year, it's been, like you said, the player that Twins fans have always wanted him to be. Because there's been years where he's been effective, but it's like, he hasn't fielded a lot. He's maybe DH'd more. Maybe the glove is still there, but the bat's not. This is really where everything has came together, and he's been primarily healthy outside of a week and a half off. He has avoided the injured list. He's been healthy, and you've seen him be healthy because he's a 5-tool player that is showcasing all 5 tools: the contact, the power, the speed, the glove, all of this stuff he's able to do, which is really, really cool. And how about this for another stat? Byron Buxton has already set tied his career RBI mark in a season. And we're just getting to the All-Star break. So this is a dude who's having it all come together. And yeah, he's probably not going to be in the MVP race. Cal Raleigh, Aaron Judge are kind of running for that one. But I mean, this dude is he's going to be on track to win a Gold Glove this year. He is going to get some plaudits. At the very least, he should, because he is just such a really, really fun player to watch. And it's cool to see him be healthy and do all this stuff and get to see the player that Twins fans have been hoping for.
Do you think he'd be third on the list? Do you think he'd be close to those two? I know those two are kind of in a tier of their own right now, but let's just say they gave away an MVP award, which they don't, but just hypothetically for each division, do you think Byron Buxton would hands down be the guy at the top?
I think he'd be a pretty heavy favorite. Now, maybe if you go by division, you probably give it to the old pitchers up there in Detroit. You maybe give it to him a little bit because he's just been been dealing all year long. But Byron Buxton is right. If you give him the Cy Young, then Byron Buxton gets the MVP. I think that's how that would go. I mean, I would guess so. Bobby Witt's been having a nice year, but nothing like he did last year and things like that. Byron Buxton's just been having a season for the ages, and hopefully he can keep it up in the second half.
Officially at the All-Star break now. They've crawled back to almost 500, 2 games below 500, 46 and 48. Again, over half the season in the books now at the break. When you think back to preseason expectations, give me like a good, better, best when it comes to players who've impressed you the most this year. I want guys who I guess stock is pointing up in 2025 right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look at a few players who are kind of under the radar, you could definitely look at Louis Varland, somebody who came in to be a bullpen arm, and he had some flashes, but never had a sustained successful run as a bullpen arm. And it's still a lot of questions. He kind of washed out as a starter. What was he really going to be? And he's not just been an effective arm. He's been one of the most high leverage arms the Twins have used this season. He is right up there in that tier with Stewart and Jax, and Jax and Duran are in their own tier, like in all of baseball. But like in terms of the Twins tier, he is trusted like a Brock Stewart, and like those two other guys in those situations. That's been really good for them. Another one I think is Brooks Lee. I mean, he was also a question mark. He had a couple flashes or two last year, got hurt, and never quite was able to get back to where he was when he first came up about this time last year. And yeah, he still has to work on developing a little more power, getting a little more extra bases. But overall, he's proven he belongs at the major league level. He's a major league hitter. He knows how to get singles. He knows how to get on base. He's got to work at developing a little bit more ability to get those extra base hits, but at least you know that you have a solid kind of major league floor in Brooks Lee that has really helped out the Twins. And if you kind of want to go on the higher end, I mean, you really could say Joe Ryan, because he made the All-Star game this year. In a couple of years, he was close, but he definitely earned his spot this year. And with Pablo Lopez being hurt, the Twins needed an ace in this rotation, and he has stepped up to do that and been the arm the Twins have kind of really needed in the absence of the true kind of number one in Pablo Lopez. For Joe Ryan every fifth day, just to have a guy of like, we know this guy is going to put us in a chance to win every single time he comes out on the mound. And this may be Joe Ryan's best season. And obviously he's got to do it over a full season, but he's really on track to be having a career mark for him as well.
If you're an opponent, right, and you see the Twins on the schedule, what's the number one thing that they've excelled at this year that you kind of got to think about right away, kind of the A topic? And then also flip it. If you're the Twins and Rocco Baldelli right now, and you know, if they're going to get serious, get hot and go on a run here in the second half, what's the number one area of improvement that needs to happen to be made, I guess, in the second half?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the Twins, I think where they've excelled at the most in the first half of the year, I was going to say pitching overall, but June really just did a tank to their starting rotation numbers. That was just not a good month for them, but their bullpen has been excellent. They've been a top 5 bullpen in the American League in baseball. Really, when you have guys like Jackson Duran at the 1-2, you have Brock Stewart, you have Louis Varland, Danny Colomb has had a really nice year for this team. There's a couple other guys who have had some nice spurts as well. It's been really, really good. And we kind of expected it to be good. And I think, again, adding a guy like Varland has really allowed the Twins just one extra really high leverage firefighter in their arsenal. And it's taken them a step up. Their bullpen has been, I know the Twins lost today, but that's more on the lineup than it was the pitching staff on this one, I'll say. Their bullpen has been really, really excellent for them this season. And that's the number one thing. If you're a team, if you're the Twins going into the second half of the year, one area, and it's not kind of one on a bullet, but this is one area that's important, has got to be the catching position. In 2023, the Twins catching tandem was top 9 in baseball in terms of their weighted runs created and what they were doing with Vasquez and with Jeffers. This year, they're a kind of sitting bottom third. They're in like 18th to 20th range in terms of the production they're getting from the catching position at the plate. And not only that, Vasquez is obviously a good kind of game caller, and Jeffers has been a good game caller, but Vasquez especially. The framing from Jeffers and Vasquez this year has taken a noticeable dip down as well. And the Twins, I think overall, they do a good job throwing out runners. But outside of that, they need to get more production in the framing department. And they also need to get more production at the plate. And that's just kind of one area to look at that the Twins are obviously going to have to solve internally. Those two guys aren't going anywhere. But that's an area where the Twins could really, if they get a boost from that spot, that could really help them out in the second half.
Quick preview of the second half, starting with the Rockies. That's Friday night, and that's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode also brought to us by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, now with more than 10 million members to date. For me and my money, it's by far the easiest, most exciting way to get in on all the action while you watch your favorite sports, you watch your favorite players. So simple, too. All you got to do, you pick more or less on 2 or more players' stats. Watch the winnings roll in. Strikeouts, RBIs, home runs, stolen bases, base hits, you name it, they got it. Take your pick on more or less. Add them to your PrizePicks entry today. Plus, they now offer Apple Pay quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. Download the PrizePicks app. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 instantly with any $5 wager. All right, 4 days of rest. Then the Twins come back Friday with 6 straight road games. It's Colorado first, and then the Dodgers. I mean, you couldn't find two polar opposite teams if you tried. A 30-second snapshot on the Rockies. Who do you think is on the mound for game one? And then quick snapshot with LA, 3 versus the Dodgers. What's that all kind of look like on paper right now? And what's maybe 1 or 2 of the top storylines, I guess, if you had to pick some?
Yeah, I think overall for the Twins in the second half for the storylines is going to just be their offensive consistency, trying to see if they can get that kind of figured out, because they just, the rotation feels like they figured themselves out, starting lineup a little back and forth. But overall for the Rockies, they're bad. You need to win at least 2 out of 3. You never want to say you need a sweep, but I mean, they got to win that series going in there, just like they did against Pittsburgh. And then the Dodgers, they are one of the best teams in baseball, but they have been struggling. They lost about 8 in a row kind of over the last week. So they're certainly not at their high point. Now, maybe the All-Star break kind of settles them back down. But after you play the Dodgers, you come back home to play the Washington Nationals, a team that just fired their manager and GM. So those first 9 games are going to set the tone for the rest of the season, because if they flounder, and let's say they go 2-7 in those 9, they're probably selling pieces at the deadline, where if they can, go 6-3 in that stretch, not that they're going to buy, but you could see the team kind of still chug towards trying to cling on to a wild card spot.
Well said there. Good stuff. As always, Twins finally hit the All-Star break. Winners of 3 straight series, so that's good. Can't get the sweep today, though, versus Pittsburgh in Game 3. 2-1 your final. 47-49 now on the year. Huge shout-out to all the everydayers out there, all you guys that always make us your first listen, all you guys coming in the chat with us from game to game as well. Make sure you like and subscribe. Check out all CJ's work on X at BombCJ30, plus all the work he's always ripping up over at ZoneCoverageMN.com as well. Luke Inman on X at Luke_Spinman. Again, back here on Friday for Game 1 versus Colorado. That's a 7:40 first pitch. Get you right here. Same time, same place. Until then, signing out.